welcome to another episode of Procurement Mastermind. I'm Omid Ghamami, and I have with me Mr. Rajesh Mohata. He's the CEO of JSL Lifestyle Limited. Rajesh, thank you so much for coming on to this podcast with us. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Same here, Ahmed. And in fact, it is very good to interact with the procurement and fraternity.
Fantastic. You know, Rajesh, if I may call you that, um, you have an incredible background. You started as an engineer, you went to procurement, you've gone through the procurement ranks, and now you're CEO of a company that's a part of a conglomerate, a $4 billion conglomerate. And so, as somebody who's got this incredible level of leadership and has done it through the procurement function, how has that transformation worked for you, and what have you learned from that transformation of going from engineer through the procurement ranks and then eventually becoming CEO of your own company?
So, in fact, when I started as an engineer, I was basically looking into what I can contribute as a technical professional into the organization. But the major part of the learning was you enter as a engineer and then start working onto it. You identify why it is required in the manufacturing process, because I was part of the manufacturing industry. So I was able to understand what are the things which are required as a part of the manufacturing process. Coming from
Yes.
a technical background also helps you in understanding the technical part of it. Basically, sometimes chemical compositions, sometimes it was a mechanical function, sometimes electrical functions. So that helps in understanding the product and the requirement in the manufacturing process. And when I moved into the procurement role, then it was easier for me to correlate the things. If somebody is coming, like a purchase requisition is coming, then we understand why this purchase requisition is, what will be use of this product, what will be the outcome which will be getting. And sometimes when we getting into the nitty gritty of it, like the specific consumption ratios to be understood, or the sort of MOCs need to be understood, then it
Yes.
was quite easier, in fact. And because you come from that mindset, you start supporting to the business teams as well, how I can make this thing easier for you. So that was one transformation when you come into the procurement part. And when you get into the procurement, and I always believe the procurement is the lifeline of a business, because it takes the things in, and it also allows you to distribute the things into whole of the manufacturing process or the business processes. So it works like a heart, basically. And
Yes.
that's where I understood that how important is the procurement. And when I was given an opportunity to become a CEO, then I only leveraged on the three or four things. The one, I need to have a cost optimization through the agile manufacturing processes. I should have a better go-to-market strategies. And third, I should have a very, very good procurement function, which can ultimately give me an edge over my competition. So that's where it has helped me in understanding the thing. And the one more important point which is there is, as a part of the procurement function, you interact with a lot of people who are coming and meeting you. So you understand the business in a larger way. So what are the things and how, and sometimes I was telling to my team as well, that we learn from the people who are coming and selling it to us. So you get a lot of selling skills coming to you, because there are not many people coming and pitching the same product in different ways. So that also was
Yes.
one of the learning for me, and that I'm now trying to pass on to my team.
This is fantastic and music to my ears. The technical background allows for understanding the product, understanding the business, and it allows you to drive influence both internally and externally with suppliers. And then, as far as procurement being part of the cost optimization function, it's incredible because on average, about 40 to 80% of every dollar of revenue, depending on the industry, goes back to procurement and procurement costs. And so there's a huge opportunity. Now, my next question for you, procurement suffers with something. Sometimes they feel like instead of having a seat at the table, they're on the menu for lunch with the executive staff. They feel like a cost center, a back office support function. And as a CEO, how do you see this? Have you seen it in other companies? And what are your thoughts on this with relative to procurement's role, real or perceived, as a back office service function?
So I will put it this way. In fact, it has happened with me in the early stage of my career as well. Where there were a lot of purchase requisitions coming and you have to deal with them. But when you start asking questions, why I'm doing it and what is the purpose of it, and when you start looking into the end purpose and you start asking the question proactively, how can I facilitate you in your business? Then they will start giving you that much of respect. And sometimes they will start thinking you as a troubleshooter. That okay, they will come first and they will say, these are the things which you want to do, you help us in doing that thing. As soon as you reach to that stage, they will automatically start giving you the respect. I will give you a relevant example what has happened in one of my career journey. I was dealing with the purchase requisition and the contractors were coming every day and they were saying that they are not able to execute the things on site because of the multiple issues. I went to my CEO and I said, I'm not the only one who is responsible for contract management. If we are not able to facilitate the contractor with the whatever he is looking for, he will never be able to deliver it. Then he said, what do you want? I said, I would like to take one step forward. I would like to facilitate him so that he can deliver. And then I called all the team members, the operation team members, as well as the project team members. And then we understood what contractor is looking for. We facilitated him with all the requirement which was there, the licenses which he was looking for, the permissions which were statutory compliances, certain part of HR related activities which were there. And then he was able to work very smoothly. And then people started coming to me, no, this person understands the business differently. As soon
Yeah.
as purchase person start showing that they understand the business and they can do a value addition to the business, they will automatically will be given a seat on the boardroom and then they can contribute much better.
Yes. This is a great point. And what's really happening from my perspective, having worked with a lot of the Fortune 100, is there's a painful reality here. The painful reality is that business units engage procurement late or sometimes not at all for one simple reason, and that reason is they don't perceive the value. Otherwise, if they saw the value, wild horses couldn't stop them from engaging procurement early. And so what you talked about, or at least what I heard, is rather than, and I'm paraphrasing, but rather than focusing on allegiance to procurement process and policy and things like this, instead focus on understanding the business unit, what they're trying to accomplish, and seek to establish value in their operations. And when you seek to establish value in their operations, then they will be intrinsically motivated, not by policy, not by requirement, not by mandate, but because they want to, because you add value, to engage you earlier. So I see a lot of value in what you said. Now, we talked about sort of engagement with the business units and how to establish value there. But what about at the C-suite level, at the executive staff level, and the people who report to the CEO? How do we get procurement a seat at the table at that level? Because frequently, what I see is a lot of companies, if they have a CPO, it doesn't report to the CEO, it reports someplace strange. Or if they don't have a CPO still, it reports someplace strange. I've seen it reporting to operations, manufacturing, legal, finance. I even saw procurement reporting to human resources in one company. And I asked them, how can you have it reporting to human resources? And they said, well, we buy people, so we should buy everything else too. And so the question is, if procurement wants a seat at the table at the executive staff level, how do we get that?
So as I was mentioning, in fact, there are in my life again, I will give the incidences from coming from there. There are people who walk only as a monotonous way that I have been asked to purchase this thing. I will continue to do that thing. I'm supposed to make this contract. They will do it without getting into the detailing why it is required, what value addition they can bring into it. There was one
Yes.
of my colleague, I will give another example. One of my colleague, we were buying caustic soda as part of my process requirement. And one day he said that why we are buying caustic soda and we are going parcel by parcel. Why don't we look into one of the caustic soda manufacturing company and offer them that we will buy this much of caustic soda from you and can you give us a share in your company? And we buy a share in their company so that we have a transparent pricing with them and we have long-term relationships so that we do not have to go every time here and there, keep doing the sort of a negotiating, coming to the negotiating table, start working towards it. Then I asked him, is it possible? Can you do this? He said, yes, let me explore. He sent message to most of the caustic soda manufacturers in India. And we got 3 proposals from them that, yes, we can partner with you. We can create an extra facility for you. And this is our proposal. And when you create that type of thing, automatically you are actually a table turner. The complete
Yes.
thing was changed. The thing which was a pain area till yesterday has now become a sort of a one of the profit center for us because we are partner in that company, and that's
Yes.
how the things starts happening. So somewhere the entrepreneurship has to come from the procurement people. They have to come from their monotonous purchase and to P2P process, which we called purchase to the payment process. They have to come out of it. They have to find out what are the new things they can do, what are
Yeah.
the discounting methods they can put in, factoring methods they can put in to facilitate faster payment to the suppliers, or some transparency into the business. So there are multiple things, but that should come as a proactive approach, because nobody, as you rightly mentioned, nobody ever gives procurement that much of opportunities at the very beginning, but that
Yeah.
need to be created, and that has to be done by the knowledge, by the why, how, when. All these questions need to be asked, and automatically things will start becoming more transparent, and they will start coming out from this thing. In my early stage of the career, I saw people either from finance or from marketing becoming CEO. And I was
Mm.
always thinking, I'm in purchase, I will never get a chance to become a CEO because I'm not in marketing, I'm not in finance. And those are the people who are getting all these opportunities, and sometimes
Yeah.
in operation. But when I got this chance, then I understood that if you start showing your acumen towards the business, you start showcasing that you can do different things than only the purchase, you always get an opportunity.
Yes. This is great. And I learned a lot from what you said. And I'm going to paraphrase, but part of what I heard was it's if you just plan to excel at the job scope that's been given to you, procurement will never get a seat at the table. You talked about entrepreneurship becoming a source of profit. And with your example of, buying a share in a supplier to enable a supply line, this is completely out of the box. And so it sounds like going beyond the traditional scope of, give me the scope of work and spec, and I'll go and bid it, and I'll get it, and moving above that to becoming a source of enterprise advantage. And when you do that enough times, and when becoming a source of enterprise advantage becomes a corporate capability, at least in procurement, then the executive staff sees that and says, we need to have these folks with a seat at the table. So that's a great answer.
Yes.
Now, I'd like to get your CEO perspective on something we kind of touched on already. Something that plagues industry, procurement anyway, across industries, is that business units engage late. They engage procurement late, which causes endless problems. And sometimes they pre-cook the deals. Sometimes they've already selected the supplier. Sometimes they've disclosed information they shouldn't. Um, and procurement always wants for there to be corporate policy established that mandates early engagement. I've never felt like this is the answer, of forcing ourselves into the equation. I felt like that's going to cause resent. It's going to cause begrudged compliance. It's going to still cause somehow deals getting cooked. So what's your answer from the CEO view? How do you organically, as opposed to mandating, how do you organically foster a culture of early engagement by the business units?
To be very frank, because I faced all such issues where the things were already finalized and they were given to me. Now, this is the party, this is the vendor with whom you have to negotiate, this is the scope, rest everything has been done. You just punched into your ERP system and then just release the order. I have to
Yeah.
put my foot down that if I am supposed to do only this typist job, I'm not here to do this thing. I will put my own studies and then I will come back. In some
Yes.
cases, I was able to do that successfully, and I was able to come out with a different idea altogether. And that's where people were taken on a back seat, and they were understood that procurement cannot be considered as just a typist, or they can be given a sort of everything is being done and then been sent. It is your job. I
Yes.
learned one thing. in one of my another organization where I was working, and that was the thing where at the time of the business plan or at the time of a new project conceiving, everybody was called, including our procurement team, and they were given separate target. Like
Mm.
technical people were to find out the best technology, procurement team were given target to find out what are the suppliers list which are there and all these things. And then the brainstorming was happening. This technology, this supplier, how many, if this is the technology, how many are suppliers are there, how we will approach them. So these are the things which, if they start early, then you get into the
Yes.
right path. When
Yes.
I'm doing now as a CEO and I'm taking care of this, I ensure that procurement people are always part of my discussion, because
Uh,
I'm currently like I'm launching a new product. So before launching a new product, I wanted to introduce certain new concept, and I said that you please bring in who are the manufacturer and the technology provider of this concept. And once they will be bringing, the procurement team was coming out with their studies, then I was throwing back it to my operation team. These are the technologies which one you find is suitable for you and which will give
yeah.
you the best benefit. Prove me that this is right. And that's
Yeah.
how it was other way around. They are coming out with this is what is happening, word is going here, because they deal with lot of technology provider who are coming and pitching them the new ideas that we can do this for you, we can do this for you. But until unless this, nobody will ask them, that knowledge will remain with the procurement team only, while
Yeah.
technical team will continue to follow the same practices. But if these two communication will be there, cross communication will be there, collaborative approach will be there, definitely things will move into the right direction. And that's what I believe.
So this is a brilliant, especially what you said at the end was just a brilliant set of commentary, which is again, I'm paraphrasing, but leadership by example at the CEO level, when you want to drive a strategic initiative, be it technology or otherwise, it's engaging procurement in that process early and showing the value that it can establish. And that sets the stage for the rest of the company. And I remember learning a statistic all the way back in the 80s. And that statistic was that it would take the US 5 years to take a car from concept to production, but it would take the Japanese, mind you, this is 35 years ago, it would take the Japanese 6 months. And the reason was they would engage all the functions up front from the very beginning and do things in parallel as opposed to sequentially. And that learning still applies today, and it applies to procurement as well. Now, you took the procurement path to CEO, which is just a beautiful thing. Um, if I look around the industry, there's a few other examples, but the most notable one I can think of is Tim Cook of Apple. He took the procurement route to CEO, and of course, he's doing a wonderful job. Do you think we're going to see more of this, that instead of just the traditional path to CEO, people also taking the procurement path?
So nowadays, actually, when I'm looking into it, there are because some of my peers are also getting into that direction. But still, procurement people per se are very few who are actually has gone up to the CEO position. Many of them are still on the number two, number three position, and they are part of the sort of a CXO position, but they are not the one who are actually aspiring for the CEO position. What I
Yes.
believe is because there's a long process to get into the CEO role. And that is where they sometimes get into the number games of cost saving and initiatives. I sometimes believe that they can actually become a better CEO because they know the operations, they know the functions, how where the products are going to be used, they interact with the marketing team as well. So the two department which I believe are should be considered as becoming a CEO are one, either finance or the procurement, because these are the two people who knows everything. Only thing
Yes.
which is there, most of the procurement people are not having exposure to the external affairs or corporate affairs or strategic part or business development activities. But if the organization start grooming them across as a part of the job rotation, they can definitely become a very good CEO as compared to the other functions. That's my belief.
That's a very interesting insight, the way you characterized it. And once again, I'll paraphrase. When you say that finance and procurement are the two that know everything, what I envisioned was the organizational chart. Whereas most of the functions are vertical functions, finance and procurement are horizontal. They may be shown vertically on the organizational chart, but responsibility wise, they're horizontal to the company, just like human resources is. And so that makes complete sense. You understand the operations, you understand the business units, how decisions get made, and so forth. Now, there's switching gears a little bit to negotiations, and this is something all our listeners really care about. Um, and it's perhaps one of my hot buttons, which is something I call parasitic negotiations. And parasitic negotiations is essentially the oldest negotiation move, I assume, in history, which is give me a better price, make less money so I can report more cost savings. And so you're achieving your results parasitically at the expense of the other party. I've always felt and experienced with our clients in industry and in our practice, we found over the last couple of decades that consistently I won't say that's not where the money is, but it's definitely not where a lot of the money is. And we found that a lot of the money is in collaboration with suppliers on cost initiatives, which don't have to be at the expense of their profit margin. And then also in analyzing the architecture of the demand to say, I know you created this custom demand, but can we not standardize this? I know you chose these materials, but were those particular materials necessary when you could use this one to achieve your performance outcome? So my question to you is, instead of exclusively achieving savings at the expense of supplier profit, which we'll always do and we should do, but instead of exclusively achieving them, are there opportunities to surgically remove cost from the equation, either internally in analyzing the demand or through supplier collaborative initiatives for the benefit of both parties and for the benefit of the supply chain? What do you think about that?
So to be very frank, I am not of the opinion that we should have a continuous negotiation. I saw many of my colleagues and some of the other organizations, in fact, where I worked on opposite side of the table, they kept on saying reduce, 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 sometimes without having any basis, just to self-satisfy or the ego satisfaction that, okay, I have been able to reduce 5% or 2% of whatever percentage it may be. But that's not the fact actually. Nobody will give you from their pocket. They will
Yes.
have something at the end in their pocket, and you will never be satisfied in just cost reduction because you do not know what is actually the cost was. In fact, I my principle of procurement is basically it should be a total cost of ownership, where
Yes.
it is not about the product, but basically what I'm able to get it. And I put the things back to those people, and that requires extensive research before you go there and talk to them that this is the cost which I am ready to pay to you. Now, if you can match that price through whatever initiative you bring into the business, whether you reduce your cost, whether you bring me more efficiencies, whether you bring me new product, whether you bring me new ideas, whether you reduce the logistic cost, up to you. But
Yeah.
I'm actually looking for this price, and whoever will be reaching next to that or closer to that will be given the order. And then I
Yeah.
start getting a lot of ideas from them. Somebody say, I will give you custom bonded warehouse where you do not have to pay the custom duty and you will be saving on interest cost. Somebody will say, I will put a mixing unit near to your plant so that you do not have to bring the all mixed product there and your strength of the product will continue to remain at the better way. Sometimes somebody will give some different idea that why you are buying ingots, you can buy a molten metal. So all such type
Mm.
of things will come as a part of the solutions when you start throwing back your problem to your supplier and ask them that you give me the solution, but I am actually, this is the resultant which I am looking for. And they
Yes.
will start giving you the ideas. I will give you another example. In one cases, when I was talking to supplier that why your cost is so high, I don't think this is the logical cost. He said, because I'm a Chinese player and you are asking me to follow the US index. I'm buying in China, but you are asking me to follow the US index, which has no relevance with my purchase, this thing.
Mm.
I'm building so much of cushion in my pricing. If you ask me to buy it, give me a Chinese index, I will remove those cushion and I will give you at a lower price. I never
Wow.
thought that this is the mistake which you are doing in purchasing. That the
Yeah.
Chinese supplier, why he should follow US index. and you
Yes.
find me locally. And as soon as we said, okay, we'll change this contract terms, you give me basis your local index, and the prices have come down by almost 40%.
Wow.
So this
That's
is what has
incredible.
happened. So
Hmm.
sometimes you have to ask proactive question that what are the things which you are building in. If they
Yes.
said that we believe, we heard from somebody that you are not a good paymaster, we believe that you people are paying after 1 year, 2 year, hence we are building that as a part of cushion. You give them assurance, take my
Yes.
LC, take my guarantees, reduce my price. I am not the person. You have heard wrong. Or they will say, we believe that you are not going to give me the right essays with respect to the material. You say, I will be putting a third party auditor. That inspection agency result will be final for both of us. Please remove this thing, whatever cushion you have built in as a risk management in your business. Please remove it and pass on these benefits to me. So these type of the questions and understanding where they are building in cushions. Nobody wants to make extra money, but actually they want to build in cushions so that they do not went into the losses. So sometimes you have
Yeah.
to remove those losses. Sometimes you have to understand what they can offer to you on a table different than what you are thinking.
These are just such great answers, and you really just have my head spinning here. And kind of what I heard here is, and once again I'll paraphrase, is coming into negotiations or looking at a negotiation to not just focus on supplier profit as the area of focus, but rather to focus on the entire cost from end to end. And when you do that and you take the guardrails off, then you can solicit innovation, you can identify problems, you can, and the thing that I really liked is most of the ideas were supplier ideas. And a problem we have that I see is people think that the ideas must come from within and the supplier just needs to comply. And doing that closes a world of opportunities because they do this for a living. Generally speaking, let's say you're buying tables. Well, you're probably not a you probably don't do tables for a living. You do something else. That table manufacturer, that's all they do. So they know it better than you. And really asking them, how do we solve this cost problem differently? They'll come back with all sorts of answers. So that's a great, great approach there. Now, shifting gears once again, as you look at the chief procurement officer function, what do you think are the key leadership attributes that every successful chief procurement officer needs to have?
So one thing which I would like to put the first thing first. So I will start with the first thing, that the chief procurement officer should always look for new knowledge, new experience of how the things are happening, because their team looks into them. They look to them to find out what is happening. So one
Mhm.
idea which I always tell my team members are how you will enhance your learning. You have to keep understanding your suppliers. You go to their website, understand what are they doing, understand their financial results, understand the new news they are printing about their organization. If a supplier, I'm just giving another example, if a supplier is coming and telling I'm not making profit and our business is not doing, while his financial books which is publishing on the website or in the news, if that is showing and that is being mentioned that you are making 30% profit or 40% profit, then you can always tell what you are telling me is you are not making profit, your balance sheet shows something else. So
Yes.
I always tell my team member, and I always follow this thing as well, that keep reading, keep looking into the information which is available on the public domain, information which is being coming to you from various sources, and articulate it how you'll be using it during your purchase function. So that is the first thing which is there. Second part which is there is that whenever a new requirement which comes, try to find out what is actually the final outcome of this. Why somebody is asking for it, what is the end game, as you rightly mentioned in between. We have to understand the end game of what is the end outcome, or the other person is looking for, what are their problem. And if
Right.
we are able to find out the answer of those problems, then they will be definitely will be opening up new opportunities for you to take it forward. The third thing which is there is get into the hardcore into the numbers. Some people usually goof up with the numbers which are there. I always say that double check the number before you get into any of the discussion, because people expect from the purchase people that they will be very, very good on the numbers. So if
Yes.
you have very good analytic skills, if you are very good on the numbers, definitely you will be able to convince the other guy, because sometimes you have to talk, sometimes you have to show, and both the things goes together, then there is a win, which is very, very possible.
Fantastic. This is a really interesting. So I'm hearing you talk about market intelligence and being good at external data analytics. And then the next thing I really heard was focusing on the end game. And to me, and what we've seen in our practice is that this is perhaps the biggest cancer in procurement today, is that the entire procurement function, inclusive of the business units and legal and finance and everybody else and suppliers, has end-to-end been architected for the acquisition of goods and services instead of performance results. And when you start with the end game, then you're automatically shifted the discussion to performance results. Then I heard you talk about not only having external market intelligence, but internal intelligence and capability in data analytics. And in fact, I really believe that you're going to start seeing people coming into procurement with degrees in data science. I think that's going to be one of the next big things, or it should be, in my opinion. People who know how to look at big data and extract the messages and to be able to do the analysis, and let the data make us smarter. So, last question for you, Rajesh, is what is your advice for the procurement professionals that are out there who aspire to be a CPO, a chief procurement officer someday? What's the best piece of advice you can give these people to fast track their careers and to make sure they're on the right track?
So one important thing which I have experienced in my life, and I would like to give this as an advice, that networking is very, very important thing. It is not only that you will talk to vendors only when there is a need of you want to buy something from them. Sometimes calling them, trying to understand how the market is, just have a casual talk. How is your business going on? What are the things which your organization is doing? Similarly, talking to the peers in the industry, like if I'm in beverage industry, I can talk to somebody in the soft drink industry. What are the things which you are doing? These knowledges, these are the information. How are they are doing the procurement in their organization? What are the new initiatives they are bringing into their organization? Filter it out. What is good for you? What is good for your organization? Sometimes all this information, if we get some certain information which is good for our industry, may not be directly linked with the purchase organization, but may be good for my industry, may be good for this information, may be good for my finance person, or maybe good for my HR function, that this company has so many good HR practices. And if we start passing on this information, we not only get a credibility for ourselves as a purchase person in the organization, but we also enhance our knowledge. And with that enhanced knowledge, when we start working towards it, our automatically efficiency builds in. Sometimes you need to do the external benchmarking. Internal people sometimes ask, why? How can you prove that you are the best purchase person? At a time, if you know the benchmarking data, if you know what your peers are doing, and you put all the facts and figures on the table, then automatically they will have appreciation for the work which, or the hard work which has been done by the purchase people, which usually being not being considered as a hard work. But that is how we can prove that thing. The second part which is there is getting into the detailing part of it. As I was mentioning in the early part of our conversation, people usually think that this is the purchase requisition without, and they just get back into who are the listed vendors or the empowered empaneled vendors with us, and they will just float the inquiries to them, get the quote, tabulate them, negotiate them, and close it without getting into what should have been the actually the cost of this product. Have they done the should cost analysis? Have they done a zero-based costing? Perhaps sometimes they do not do it. I believe that whatever you do, at least get thorough into it, because we get this opportunity once in a lifetime. Once
Yes.
you reach to from a purchaser, you move to the manager and you move to the CPO, you will have lesser and lesser chance of getting into the details, because you will be getting a dashboard and you will be asked to give a decision in minutes, perhaps in fraction of minutes, rather, I would like to put it. But as a purchaser, you have a lot of time to do your own analysis, do the market research, understand the subject. In fact, sometimes nobody will ask you question why you are delayed. Because if you will tell them that want to understand this topic and then want to conclude the deal. And
Yes.
this will become a lifetime sort of a knowledge with somebody. And once they will become a CPO, they will be able to give a better knowledge to their junior people as well.
This is great insight. I super appreciate it. And it's rare that I'm able to bring a CEO of a large company onto this podcast. And you've just really given a different perspective on the procurement function, how it collaborates with other organizations, and how to drive influence and how to drive change and how to create procurement as a center of profit that adds value to the corporation and is recognized as the CEO level. Rajesh, I super appreciate your time. This was a fantastic session. And I'd like to thank all of the listeners for tuning into another great episode of Procurement Mastermind. And we'll see you again next time.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Omid. Thank you very much. It was nice interacting with you.
I appreciate it.
Thank
Bye
you.
for now, everyone.